why wasn't I good enough for you to stay around? Our brain formulates this story that's just not true. Life is hard, and parents are so hard, and family's hard, but people are just, they're doing their best. Your relationships are the single most important thing in your life. You just don't know what one thing you say. You don't know how that one thing can change someone's life. Today I have a really special guest. This is my best friend, Sarah, who I met a little over 6 years ago in a personal development training here in Las Vegas called Choice Center. Sarah and I took this course called Journey Within, which was all about discovering every aspect of who you are, bringing everything to the surface, and cultivating self-acceptance. And along that journey that we went through together, we developed a friendship that is so deep and connected and beautiful. And I was only about 18 or 19 when I met you. Now I'm 25. So we've been there through the highs and lows of life together. And you have been so pivotal in my development as I've gotten older. And so I'm bringing you on the podcast today because I want you to share all the things that you wish you would have known in your 20s. Because how old are you now?
Yeah, I'm 37.
37.
So believe it. I feel 23.
And you have the most youthful energy of anyone I know. And so you're 37, I'm 25, and you see me in my life. And so many times I struggled with just embracing myself or putting myself out there, or even just enjoying life and having fun because I was so in my head all the time. So you, for me, have been someone who has just like embraced all of who you are unapologetically. So I'm really excited to hear everything that you have to share with us about what you wish you would have known in your 20s.
Yeah. Oh, I'm excited to be here. So when I look back and I think about 25, right, the age that you're at right now, when I was in my 20s, I didn't have this community, like, right, what we've had as we've built, as we've done personal development work, like we went through Choice Center. I didn't have what I would consider quality friends. And that's like the thing that comes up for me most. When I was 25, I was running around in the clubs. I was having all the fun, Shana, but it was fun that was disconnected. It was surface level. I had a lot of girlfriends in my life, but they didn't like support me and my dreams and what I wanted to do. It was like, let's go out and drink, right? And at that time, I really wasn't aware of how important those people in our life really, really is. So when I think about what I wish someone would have taught me when I was in my 20s, was the quality of the people that we surround ourselves is the most important thing that we could ever do. Because questions like, who are they? And how are they treating you? Do they believe in you? Do they actually care about you? Forget about when you're out having fun. When you hit rock bottom at 6 a.m. and you're crying and you need somebody, like, are those people going to show up for you? Do they believe in you? Do they have big, juicy dreams? Like, are they going somewhere? I look back into my 20s and some of the people, and amazing humans, but doing things that were just unconscious, right? Not working on themselves, not building a future, not building their goals. And so I think about what I have now, what you have now at such a young age is incredible men and women in your life that believe in you, that believe in me. I can't say this enough. It is the most important thing. And so the hardest thing is when I started to wake up, when I started to do my own work, was having to look around and go, oh my goodness, like, I love these people, but I know they're not for me. I know they're not where I want to go. And there's many times that we outgrow people in our life, and it's hard. Your heart aches because it's like a breakup, right? You're going to move on. And it doesn't mean we don't still love those people. It doesn't mean we don't care about them. And it doesn't mean we just cut them off dry. That's not what I'm saying. But there is a time when we're ready to elevate and go to the next level. And there's just, our heart and soul knows there's certain people that cannot come with us. And the moment we make that decision, the moment I said yes to a better life, the moment I said yes to, I want to grow, I want to elevate, I want to make more money, I want to have better relationships, everything around me started to shift. And so did the people. Every time I said yes to someone that was doing something really scary, like something I wanted to do, like, you know, something I was, someone who inspired me, though, I started to follow in suit. It's amazing how the people you choose is, in my opinion, the most important thing we can do.
Oh my gosh. The way you word things is so amazing. I'm over here in shock. The way you string your words together is beautiful. I think what you're saying is that quote I love that I heard Pitbull say in a Tony Robbins training, show me your friends, I'll show you your future.
We did that training together.
Exactly.
This is what I love about you and the relationship we have is I don't ever look at you and see 25. I look at you and your heart and your soul is so big and you're wise beyond your years, yet you're so youthful. And like, we've done Tony Robbins together. We've done all these trainings together. We've done ceremonies together because you are a yes to elevating. You're a yes to growing. And you've stepped in the fire, girl. Like, you have. You've been terrified at times. So have I. But that's like when the good stuff comes, is when we're like, oh shit, this is scary. I gotta run. That's the time that you've said yes. That's the time that I've said yes. And like, look at now where your life is going, you know, and now you're impacting women all over the world.
Yeah, and we get to do it together too. So I love that. It's so true. Like, the people that you surround yourself with are really strong indicators of the success that you're going to have in your future as far as accomplishing your goals and being the person you want to be. Look to the people around you and ask yourself, are the people around me a reflection of who I want to be? And if they're not, it looks like you might have to choose a new circle. So do you have any word of wisdom for people who are listening to this and are thinking, okay, I get that I probably need some new friends, but how do I find friends who are going to support the version of myself that I want to step into?
Yeah, such a great question. And I feel like I fumbled and learned the hard way, but what I can tell you and every woman and man out there is, it's scary, but you have to put yourself in new places with new people. And it can be something small, like going to a new yoga class or a new Pilates class, or it can be something like going to Choice Center where we did, you know, it's like a leadership, personal development program, but saying yes to things. Even right now in my current life, I just picked up my life. I sold everything after being in San Diego for 14 years and I moved to Miami because I knew something inside of me said I needed a change and I needed to go. I don't know anyone there. You know how terrifying that is to leave all the women that I love and of the community I built. But the first thing I've done when I got there, I just applied for like a conscious community. It's a membership only, but it's all people that when I saw who was in there, they're all people doing things that I want to do. They're showing up in the world that I want to show up. So it's saying yes to new things. It can be something so small, Shana, like, you know, I have a dog. I think a lot of people have pets, and if you don't, you need one. But it's walking your dog in a different area in the neighborhood, and it's being not afraid to talk to people. You know, I met the coolest connection in Miami the other day. I was at Joe and the Juice, and I just started talking to this guy. And one of my goals this year is to get my financial future really, really, really strong. And what did he do? The universe brought me a guy that is like one of the top financial advisors in the city, like just amazing connections. But I share that with you because we have to get out of our comfort zone and out of the same routine that we do every day. So it's meeting new people, it's going to new places, and it's just not being afraid to just open new doors and just have conversations.
I love that.
You don't know what the universe is going to bring you.
Yeah. And honestly, like, if you were to ask me, Shana, how can I find friends who are going to support me and my evolution? I would ask you, are you in places that are supportive of your growth? Because you and I became friends in a personal development leadership training. People who are going to leadership trainings are in a stage in their life where they are seeking something so that they can get to the next level. So are you in places where you're finding people who also want to get to that next level in their life? Because that's where you're going to find your people who build their lives around growth and development. I love what you're saying. Like, it doesn't have to be massive things like that. It can be something as little as going to a new place where you walk your dog and having the courage to talk to someone. Because a lot of times that's what's scariest for people, is branching out and starting a conversation with someone for the first time. Because so many people are like, oh my gosh, what's this person going to think of me? Am I weird for wanting to become friends with this person? How do I even do that? So you're saying like, that's the first step you need to take, is using your voice and being courageous enough to spark a conversation with anybody just on the street that you see, right?
Yeah, absolutely. You know, you just brought up something that I really want to bring to light. Something, I wish so bad I would have known in my 20s, or could have had some light shined on it, is being so worried about what people think. I grew up very poor. It was just me and my mom, single mom, and she's amazing. She did everything she could, but I all of a sudden looked around in school and I realized like I didn't have the same clothes or the same shoes. And when I would play sports, we had enough funds to even play the sport, but not have the Jordans that everyone had and all these things. And I wasn't popular and I didn't feel pretty when I was young. I felt like I was always on the outside. Like I was always trying to be a part of the people who were popular and what I deemed as beautiful or worthy, right? And then I didn't have social media when I was in school, but then when that came out right when I graduated, and it was like this desire that I needed to have this life and look like the women on social media. And I cared so much, Shana, about what people would think of me, that so many times I would hide my voice or even just who I was because I just wanted to fit in. But what that did for me is it shut down who I am, and who I am is why people love me. So here I am thinking, right, I'm going to earn love if I just look pretty or I do the things that the popular people are doing. But what happens is I block the people who are actually meant for me. I block the opportunities that are meant for me because they can't get in, because I'm hiding who I am. I'm hiding the gifts that I have to give to people that I meet or give to the world. And it is exhausting to hide who you are. It's exhausting to try to fit in. And we all still do it. It's so a part of, our ego that's trying to keep us safe, and it's important, I think, us as women to not judge ourselves for wanting that, but man, the moment I started to let go of what people would think is the moment I took off. And it's like, I have the career that I have because I wasn't afraid to use my voice and be who I am and go for what I want. But I think that's a journey that a lot of us are on, is learning to shed what society thinks about you, what they think you should do. At my age, one of the hardest things right now is like, why aren't you married? Why don't you have a baby? Why this, And I have to remember that it's okay for them to think that, or for people to ask me that, but it's not my journey in this very moment. I had to go through what I went through to get here. So letting go of what your parents think. My parents are amazing, but because we grew up so poor, all they knew was, you got to go to school. You got to get an education. You got to get a safe job with that 401k and those benefits, right? And bless their hearts. For them, that meant that I would be safe. But what it did is put me in this small, small box and had me working in an office in a corporate job where I was miserable every day. But I was like, wait a minute. I just did everything my parents said, and now I'm in all this debt for school, and now I'm in a job I don't love. And it took me waking up and saying, okay, that was their dream, but now it's time for me. What does Sarah want? Who am I as a woman? What do I want to contribute to society? Who's the friend I want to be? Who's the woman I want to be? And go after that. And it's scary as hell, but it's liberating. The moment you're like, nope, I'm doing this for me, not for society, not because my friends think it's cool, not because my parents, but for me.
You just touched on probably the central issue that I would say people of all ages have is, what are people going to think of me? And I have to say, you can be the most confident person on the outside, but underlying, no one is really exempt from not worrying about people's perception of them. Even I think about that at times when I post a video and I'm terrified to hit post because I don't know how people are going to, perceive me. I understand that that's a very real fear for people. And I don't tell people, hey, just stop caring what people think, because it's like not really helpful advice. And what I say is, the moment you catch yourself asking, what are people going to think of me? Or what are they going to think of this thing I'm doing? Ask yourself, what do I think of me? What do I think of what I'm doing? Because it's most important what your view is of yourself, your own self-image, right? And so it's normal if you have thoughts about others' judgments of you, but it's it's advantageous to really think about how you perceive and relate to yourself and work on doing whatever you can to strengthen your beliefs in yourself and to build that elevated relationship with you, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So in those moments where you're going to do something that's scary or be someone that's scary to you, what would you say somebody could say to themselves or think when that thought hits of, oh, I shouldn't do this, or I can't be this way because X, Y, and Z? How can they work through that, do you think?
Yeah, there's a few things that come to mind. One thing for me that I have to do when I have those moments that I'm either scared, I'm terrified, or I feel like I might do something that's just hiding myself, right? Doing something to be loved or likable, is I always touch my chest or put my hand over my heart and I tap right here. And I remind myself I'm right where I need to be. I'm right where I need to be. And I just repeat that it takes 2 seconds to do that, but it brings me back home to myself and to remind myself. And you brought up a really good point about reflecting. Is this the person that I want to be? And looking at that. And for me, I have to remind myself a lot, the gifts that I have, because my mind is always thinking about what's going wrong or what I won't do, right? Instead of reminding what's amazing about me. And I think as humans, we can all do a better job of that. One of the exercises we did, remember we did a training and the trainer had us write a list of 10 things we're most proud of. So our accomplishment, 10 things that make us great. And the first time that we did that, it was so hard for me to find 10 things that I loved about myself or that I thought was great. You could see that in me. Everyone else could. But that was such a beautiful starting point to work on. And that's a little exercise I'd recommend for anyone to do. And you know what, Shana? I still have that journal and that list, and I go back to it all the time. The things that I'm most proud of, I've added to it. But that's also a beautiful reminder, is for us to have, a few things that we know that make us amazing. And we have to remind ourselves of that, because life gets hard. It gets sticky. We get scared. We get stuck. And it's not these big things that we got to do. It's these small moments when we remind ourselves what we love about ourselves, what makes us great. And sometimes when you can't remember, that's when I call you. That's when I call Olga.
Yeah.
That's the importance of having community, because there are moments when you need it. You do need it to come from someone else.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point, because so often we kind of look at reassurance as a bad thing of like, oh, you should just be confident in yourself and know who you are. But yes, that's definitely important. But at times, like you said, there are moments where you just need to hear from someone in your circle that can build you up and remind you of your greatness, because it can be inaccessible when we're really deep in darkness ourselves. Yeah. And sometimes it takes having a friend that's in the light to bring us closer to that light by saying, I see you, I get you, I know what you're worthy and capable of. So let me be the one to just remind you again. I love that you're saying that, Sarah.
Yeah, it's beautiful. So you just made me think about like something that's been so big for me, and that's self-worth. So I never even really knew what that word was. Maybe I was probably 27, 28 at that time. And it's when I first went through the training. And I didn't understand that we have these beliefs, these subconscious beliefs that have been made up since about the age of 7, right? That we don't realize are actually running all the program. And we're making decisions based on these beliefs that we don't know are there. And for me, to make a long story short, my dad left when I was 4. Like, I'll never forget the day, and he was not really there throughout most of my life. And I never even thought anything of it. I had no idea until I went through the training that I have this belief that I'm not good enough because I wasn't good enough for my dad to stay. And then I wasn't good enough for him to spend time with me. I wasn't good enough for him to love me and show up for me. Now, of course, I didn't know that when I was young, or even in high school, or even at 25, I didn't realize that. But what I realized was so many decisions I was making were because I didn't feel good enough. I didn't feel worthy. And then there's this thing in society where people are like, well, you just need to love yourself. Just like go practice self-love, right? Go take a bubble bath, go read a book, right? These things. And you're like, oh, okay. But then you go do all the things and you're like, well, wait a minute. Like, okay, is some magic supposed to happen? And here's what I've learned after all of this work that I've done. And I've worked with therapists and coaches and trainings, and I've really been dabbling in plant medicine. And worth comes from, it's the smallest choices that we make every single day. And a choice that we make will either build our self-worth and our self-love or destroy it. There's actually really no in between. And that can be a really hard truth to face, because it was hard for me to look at the decisions I've made that aren't good for me, because some of them kind of feel good, right? They gave me in the moment gratification, but they did not serve my highest vision for my life. But what I realized, and it can be the smallest thing. So like, for example, right? So people can relate, is choosing to get out of bed and actually go work out in the morning, choosing to do things that are really good for you, whether it's personal development or working out. Those are some things. But other things are choosing to have that conversation that you're scared to have because you're afraid you'll lose love. For me, that took me a long time to realize that if I share my truth, not everybody's going to leave me like my dad did. It's okay. You know, I thought when I was young, I just did really good at sports, Shana, because he would come to my games and my horse shows. But I just thought, okay, if I keep doing really good at things, I'm going to get love. My dad's going to show up, right? And I didn't realize that went into my dating. If I just love this man more and do more for him, he'll never leave me. If I just crush at work, they can't ever fire me, and I'll always have value. So I was searching for worth and love in making money, in jobs, and excelling, right? Crushing, like being a boss bitch, right? And those things have some value. There is some value there, but I was looking for love in every guy, everything outside of me, not realizing that for self-love to start within you, within me, it's these decisions we have to make that actually serve our heart and our soul and our purpose. The other thing about self-worth is making the choices that are actually good for your future, not just good for right now. You know, one of the easiest examples, from my past is staying in a situationship or relationship with a man for almost 3 years that I knew could not love me or give me what I needed, but it felt so good what I was getting in the moment. And I was so scared that I wouldn't find something better because I was still dealing with, am I good enough to have better? It's this conversation, right? But making that one choice of even just severing that relationship, so many new things opened up for me. So self-worth isn't just this thing where we can go take a bubble bath or read a book. It's literally, in my opinion, the little choices we make every single day. And here's the thing, you can't bullshit yourself. We know what's good for us and what's not. And we all have an intuition, and it's there. We just have to pick up on it, but be willing to do it. And sometimes it's hard, and it's not always fun or pretty to make the decisions that we know are good for us.
Yeah. Wow. That was a lot, Sarah. I mean, to anyone listening, you're probably like mind blown right now because you just pour out this wisdom so effortlessly. You just blow me away. It's no wonder you've had such an influence on my life. What I've learned about worthiness is something that Brené Brown says. She says, there are no prerequisites to worthiness. In other words, you don't have to be anything more or do anything more to become more worthy. Mm-hmm. You already are born worthy, and nothing and no one can take away your worthiness. But I hear what you're saying. In your case, something happened in your life, right? Like your dad walked out on you at 4 years old, and you immediately created meaning from that event, and you decided, oh, I must not be worthy enough for my dad to stick around. And so many of us do that, even with just little situations in our lives where something happens, and instinctively, because our brains are designed to create meaning, we automatically kind of assume the worst case scenario about ourselves, about other people, and about the world. And so we have to constantly be conscious of what story am I telling myself? Because anytime you feel this inner turmoil inside about something that has happened to you or in your life, most likely you're feeling inner turmoil because you've created this disempowering story that's having you feel unworthy or sad or whatever the emotion may be.
Yeah.
So I love that you're bringing such a real story to the listeners right now, because it's so deep.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I have actually a lot of emotion coming up around all that, because I'll share with you, because I was in my 20s. I had just moved to San Diego to start my life, and my dad did come back in my life around 18, and we did get really close. And I was in San Diego, and it was like 11:30 at night, and my phone rang twice in a row, and it was my mom, and that's like 2:30 Michigan time. And I'll never forget it, because I instantly knew something was wrong, and it was my dad. And he had committed suicide. He had taken his own life. And I never had experienced death or pain up until that point, Shana. And in that moment, it was like the same wound. Like, why wasn't I good enough for you to stay around? Like, how could this happen again? And, the thought that I had was, oh my God, when was the last time that I called my dad? Because I was so busy, Shana, like partying and like working. And I would work all week just to make money, just to go party on the weekend or travel or like escape and like do all the things that society had told me that I should be out doing at 23. But I wasn't going home. Like, I went home maybe once a year, because I was just so busy and unconscious in life, like running through life, right? Like it wasn't that I didn't have a good life, but I just wasn't connected to what was important to me. And I was just like, God, I just thought, oh my God, like, I don't even remember when I went home last. It's just like all these thoughts come up. And the one thing that I could share with anybody listening is we have no idea like how long someone's going to be around. And like, it's the biggest thing that I learned at that age was I have to call the people I love. I have to spend time with them. I can't make work and money or whatever else be more important than the people in my life. And that was probably the most painful thing that I've ever gone through. But man, it taught me so much about building relationships. And it brought me out of being unconscious and forced me to look at the people in my life. Why am I spending all my time with these people that actually don't love and care about me the same way my own dad and mom do? And what am I prioritizing is the message I want to say. And it doesn't always have to be your family, but it can be friends, family, whoever that is important to you. Like, we just have no idea. And, speaking of the worthiness story, right? I had made up this story, that my dad left because he didn't love me. Like, I'm not good enough for my dad to stay. And man, it wasn't true. Like, what's crazy is when I went to his funeral, the funeral home was so full, like they couldn't even fit everyone coming to celebrate my dad. And everybody I met, Shana, do you want to know what they said? Are you the daughter from San Diego? I'm like, yeah. They're like, oh, your dad does talk about you and how proud of you he is, but he just couldn't tell me, Shana, because he just didn't have like the skill set and the tools just to tell me how much he loved me. But man, did he love me, And I look back at all the moments and like, he did show me so much love. It wasn't the way that I wanted to be loved. But it's the one thing that I could always share with somebody. Like, life is hard and parents are so hard and family's hard, but people are they're doing their best. And many times, like, our brain formulates this story that's just not true. And they're doing their very best. Man, what I wouldn't give to see dad coming up at my cell phone like one more time. So call the people that you love, spend time with them, cherish them, celebrate them, even when it's hard, even when you're like, this person drives me crazy. It's probably the most valuable lesson that I've learned. Whew.
Man, Sarah,
I know.
what can I say, after you sharing that? I mean, there's nothing I can say that would possibly take away the pain. And I think the biggest thing I can say is just thank you for your vulnerability, and thank you for reminding everybody listening that at the end of the day, your relationships are the single most important thing in your life. And at the end of your life, when you look back at all these years, you're going to think about the people that you impacted, the people that impacted you. And your story is such a powerful reminder, as hard as that wake-up call is to all of us, that like we have to look around and ask ourselves, are we like really happy and fulfilled with the relationships that we have?
Yeah, you know what's amazing now, you know, fast forward, right, is I talk to my dad a lot. Like I always look up, you know, and I've had so much healing around this, but I already know like so many things now that I've created in my life. I'm like, Dad, are you proud? Like, Dad, you know, I literally am like, I just love it because I know that I'm living the life that he saw for me now, right? I'm doing the things that I know are right for me and my journey and my path, you know, and although that was the hardest thing I ever went through, it has shaped every part of me, every part of my life, and every ounce of who I am. And so it's you know, it's been a beautiful, long, hard journey, but it's shaped so much. Man, there's so many things I want to share on that, but I think that brings me back to, I want to kind of talk about something completely different, but it's all related to self-worth, is relationships and men, right? Because I've struggled with that throughout most of my life. And, you know, because, right, the stuff with my dad throughout my life, I've just had a lot of trauma with the masculine, right? And I didn't realize I was doing this, but I used to be a serial monogamist. Like I started from the age of 15, I was in a 5-year relationship, then a 4, then another 3. Like I would go from one long-term relationship to the next because I didn't know how to be on my own or be alone or sit with myself or those feelings that were coming up. And I just thought, well, if I have a boyfriend, like everything's going to be fine because they can love me and they can hold me and they can give me those things that I feel like I need from the outside, you know. And so what I wish I would have known when I was in my 20s was, you don't need to go out just looking for a relationship all the time. It's not the answer, even though, you know, there's pressure from family and society. And I know some religions, it's very intense, but to spend some time on your own and like have all the fun on I had all the fun, but like I was always, you know, worried about someone else and what we were doing. It's just very different than finding your journey on your own. And I was looking for love a lot of times in a man. I wanted a man to give me the things that I didn't know how to give myself. And it's a really empty road because they can't. They cannot. Like no one can. No one can give me love until I love myself. You know, we can show up and we can co-create with somebody, but it is such a different thing when we're expecting another human. And I didn't know, Shana, how to have boundaries with men. I didn't know. Like, I didn't know what was too far, when to say no. In a relationship, I would just be, because I wanted to be loved so bad and not be abandoned again, or I would just say yes to anything. It could be something so small, like, what do you want for breakfast? Oh, I don't know, whatever you want. I would just become a doormat yes girl. And I would wake up in this relationship and feel so alone because I wasn't living my truth. I wasn't being who I was. You know, this person loved me, but they don't actually love who I am because how could they? I haven't shown them who I am, right? So it's not even their fault. I've been putting on these masks and these walls to try and keep myself safe. But it's interesting what that actually does is keep love out. It keeps love away, right? So if that's the one thing I could go back and you know, share about 20s is to do your best if you're chasing love, to just look at why and what's that feeling that's underneath that really just needs to just shine a little flashlight on, right? And just look at.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense because, you know, even in society and media, like we're told that you have to find someone else who's going to complete you. And once you find your Prince Charming, you'll live happily ever after. Like this is actually in Disney movies. And it's so, you bring up such a great point of the fact that no one can actually complete us. We are not half of a person looking for another half, and then the two of us become whole together as one.
Yeah.
It's I'm a whole person looking for another whole person, and then we combine forces and we magnify the love and the connection and the depth together.
Yes.
And I think that's what you're saying is like so many people, they're just looking for love in all the wrong places, looking for validation, attention, worthiness from a guy or from a relationship without really asking themselves, what am I avoiding? Right? It's totally normal and okay to want to be in a relationship, but it's also so important to look at your relationship with yourself and to ask yourself, you know, am I able to fill my own cup too before I ask someone else to fill my cup?
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
I love that, Sarah. I mean, some of us go the complete opposite ends of the spectrum.
Yeah.
And we avoid love at all costs too. And I know that's been my journey, is that for so long, I didn't want to be in a relationship at all because I thought being in a relationship would be loss and pain. And I never even considered that it could elevate me, that it could add to my life.
Yeah.
And so I also want to make that point to the people who maybe relate to that, is to really look at what are the stories that, again, that you're telling yourself about your perception of love, because a lot of people have these examples of love that were modeled to them from when they were younger that were unhealthy, that have led to them believing that they will only find unhealthy love in their lives. So what wisdom do you have to say for people who might find themselves rejecting love?
Yeah.
Have you ever been in that place?
Yes, I have. And it's sneaky because it's not always obvious. I'm going to give you a recent example because I'm working with a really amazing relationship coach. One of the things that we do to keep ourselves safe, especially when we've had any, like what I went through, like abandonment, or we have that fear of intimacy, of love getting close, because for me, like technically love was painful, right? As I was growing up, and, you know, and even though I was in relationships, I had a lot of trauma in those relationships. There was a lot of abuse sometimes physical, sometimes emotional. So I grew up learning that love wasn't really safe. So we do small things to keep us safe. Like we make up stories, for instance, you know, like dating apps, right? Or we're dating someone. It's easy for us, if you're trying to keep yourself safe, you won't realize you're doing it, but you'll be like, oh my God, I don't like the way this guy's texts. Oh, he likes too many of my stories. He's this, he's that. We start like building evidence to why we shouldn't go on that date. We shouldn't talk to that person. And it's not obvious because our mind says that we're right, but someone from the outside can see like, wow, you're actually not giving anybody a chance. You're not actually deeply connecting with people, getting to know them, right? But those are the most like recent examples I can give because I didn't realize I was doing that until she pointed it out. You know,
Yeah, I've totally found myself in that place. I think what you're saying is we tell ourselves sometimes that we want something. Like we say, I want to be in a relationship. And then when we look at our actions, we realize that our subconscious is actually driving those actions.
Yeah.
So when we match with a guy on a dating app, suddenly we manage to find a list of 20 things that disqualify him from a date with us.
Yeah.
And really what you're saying is, your limiting beliefs can actually sneak up on you in those times where you don't realize it in the moment, but you are actually acting in a way where you're rejecting love, even though you think you want it.
Yeah.
So that's such a good point, is like whatever desire or, you know, goal that you have in your life right now, you really have to ask yourself, okay, do my actions actually show that I want that thing?
Yeah.
And that's the hard part, is really aligning what you want with your actions and the way that you carry yourself.
Yeah.
Because I know that for a while I told myself, okay, finally I'm ready to be in a relationship. But subconsciously there was this belief that I really, really felt strongly about, which was that I don't need anyone.
Yeah.
So if I go into dates thinking, okay, I want a relationship, but I don't need anyone, those are very conflicting things, because saying I don't need anyone is saying I'm good with being alone. And sure, I am, right? Like overall, I'm confident being by myself, but in a relationship, the whole point of it is that, you know, two people lean on each other, and in a way they need each other to level up and to grow as individuals. There is no growth in a relationship without that counterpart.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, it's beautiful.
I'm so happy you said that.
Yeah. This just reminds me of something else too that's like really powerful is when we're talking a lot about beliefs, right? Like shining light on beliefs. This is why it's so powerful to have a coach, a mentor. I've done so much therapy. I've done it all because it all has value. It all will bring different things up. And one of the beliefs that I had that I didn't realize was there is because growing up, I didn't have an example of healthy love. I'd never seen it. I just had not seen it. And even really in my friend groups, I hadn't seen a healthy, conscious love. And so I had made up this belief that what I want isn't really out there. So of course, why would I date? Or why would I even really invest real time? So of course it makes sense that, of course I meet guys all the time, but like, why would I nothing would come out of it? Well, of course, because I have this belief in me that what I want is not actually real. And you don't always realize that that's there, right? And I think one of the best pieces of coaching I had, it's pretty simple, was for me to find relationships that I loved, that inspired me, like couples, right? One of my favorite couples is Aubrey Marcus and Vylana. You know, of course, you probably everyone sees them on social media, but I've done a lot of work with them and at Fit for Service, and the how they are is like my standard now. It's because I know that it's real and I can have it, and it's not just because of them. I now have examples of our life. Our good friends have marriages that are everything that I never even knew was possible. And so now that I know that it is, that's one of the reasons people will ask me, well, why are you single? You're so great. You're so all the things, right? Well, one of the reasons at this moment in time is I've had some amazing men in my life, but it wasn't it. It wasn't everything that I know I can have. And I knew in my heart and soul, it wasn't my person that is aligned with that relationship that I now believe I can actually have. It took a long time, Shana, for me to even believe that it was possible.
Wow. Yeah. So if for anyone listening, what Sarah's saying is you have to kind of retrain and rewire your brain to think about what it considers as normal. Because if you grow up and you're constantly around people who are in unhealthy relationships, you view that as normal. So you think, okay, that's what I'm going to have. So what you're saying is change what you see as normal by having specific examples that you can draw on of what you see for yourself, and know that if those people have it, there's no reason why you can't also have it. That's what you're saying, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. And then just like we spoke about before with the friend groups, surrounding ourselves with people that have what we want to, so that it's there and it's present. So for example, right, if you hang out with people that are always, for example, maybe they're not faithful in their relationships, or maybe, you know, it's just like, it's the same thing. You're going to end up sourcing that, right? And if we hang out with people that are in conscious, healthy marriages or relationships, we're going to source that as well. Because those people, like in general, we typically are surrounded with people that are living the same life that we are, right? And that energy is so contagious. So also surrounding ourselves with people that either have the job that we want or have the relationship that we want. And even if it seems untouchable, I remember when I first met them, I was like, oh, I thought they were gods. And I realized, no, these are real humans that have been through the thick of it to have what they have. They also didn't just have this magic relationship, right? Because it just like fell into their laps. No, they've went through hell and back to have what they have. Our friends that are in amazing, conscious, beautiful marriages, we know they have been through literally like through the grit and back to have what they have. It's not easy, but now that I have it everywhere, I know that it's possible. And I know it's possible for me. It's not just this like unattainable like dream up there, right?
So true. Because so often we think to ourselves that something we want is just too far out of reach. And we look to others and we think that there's something about those specific people that make them qualified to have what they have. But then me over here, well, there's this huge long list of traits about me that make me unqualified to have what they have. So you're saying once again, like, hey, when you see someone that has what you want, instead of thinking like, oh, well, only they're allowed to have it, you have to look at their life as permission for you to create what they have, because you're saying,
Yes,
what they have on the outside, they probably didn't get that overnight. And so you have to first, one, give yourself permission to know it's possible to have that. And then two, do the inner work, take the action to actually have whatever that thing is. And that can sometimes take time. Like, I mean, I had never been in a relationship up until 6 months ago, even though I'm no longer in that relationship. I want people to see that it took me literally years to get to a point where I could allow myself to be open to being in an intimate relationship.
Yeah.
So people on the outside might have seen my relationship with my ex-boyfriend on my social media and thought, wow, things just come so easy for her. Like, of course, she attracted this wonderful guy. And so I just want to say to that, like, you seeing other people's lives on the outside, get curious and actually talk to those people about how they got what they have. How did they open themselves up to a relationship after going through a heartbreak or whatever the case may be? Like, be curious. Don't be afraid to reach out to people and have them act as a guide for you to create whatever it is that you want in your life.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I just thought of the word settle, because this is what's coming up for me right now as we're talking about relationships. And in my life growing up, most of the relationships I saw were just two people settling, whether it was for the kids or for the life or whatever. It wasn't actual real love. And so that had been my baseline for so long, was just settling. And it's so easy to settle in life, settle for the job. But here's what's tricky, is when we have the job or the relationship that's almost the full fuck yes. It's like an 8.5 out of 10, right? And so we make this story up because we're like, yeah, but we have all of this. But when you know on the inside that there is something missing, I think that is probably the hardest thing to walk away from, whether it's a relationship or a job, because settling can just be so easy. And it's not always a bad thing, but I know for me through my journey, I don't want to settle. I want fucking extraordinary. And I know it's possible because it's everywhere. Because now I have proof of it everywhere, whether it's relationships, job, even where I'm living, like all of it,
This is so good. I feel like just like jumping up and down right now.
I know.
I feel this transfer of energy between us. Yeah. I love what you're saying. Like, do not settle for what's good. Yeah. Go for what's extraordinary. Because, there's so many people listening right now that have, a boyfriend or girlfriend that they love and they have the job they love. But the thing is, like, there may be a little sneaky thought inside them of, but what if there's more? And you're saying, in those moments where you have that quiet whisper, but what if there's more? What else is there for me? You gotta pursue that intuition, right?
Yeah, because it's a download. It's coming from source. I don't care what you believe in, the universe, God, all that you wouldn't even have that thought if you were exactly where you needed to be. It would not be, you would not question the relationship or the job at all if there wasn't more for you. Mm-hmm. Like it's trusting and knowing. I used to not understand all this because I thought it was foo-foo. And now what's really cool is the science of the brain actually proves all of this is not foo-foo, but that is a download for your highest calling. Wow. I'm going to wake up.
This is so amazing. Yeah. I mean, since I've been friends with you, again, I was about 18 or 19 when I met you, and I just saw such a powerful boss woman. Like, you're so independent, you're career driven, you are motivated, you're just on top of it in life, and you carry yourself with so much confidence. And not only that, but you're passionate. You just like stand so firmly in who you are and your truths. And when I was younger, I looked at you like, huh, like how could somebody just walk with so much, like confidence? And you've really helped me develop that in myself. One of the ways you've made such a big impact on me is when I was younger, I was so analytical. I mean, it's still part of me, don't worry. But I was so analytical that I had a lot of trouble relaxing and loosening up and having fun because I actually had some limiting beliefs about what it meant to have fun. And I thought it was bad in a way to just like get drunk and go to a club and things that most people do in their 20s, right? I didn't even allow myself to do because I thought if I have fun, I will lose the part of me that's responsible. That was my fear, because my responsible brain is what has, gotten me to where I am in my career. And so there's people who think that like they have to let go of a part of them to access another part of them. And I want to tell the people who think that it's not true. Like you can actually be so many different things. You can be diverse as a person and have the freedom to experience all these different sides of yourself without necessarily having to neglect an aspect of you. For example, I now know through experience and through being your friend that I can be a responsible, career-driven woman, and I can have fun and let go and have a good time and get drunk if I want to and make out with a boy. Like none of those things are bad or wrong. And actually integrating this responsible part of me and integrating this playful, free, fun side of me has been so beautiful, because at the end of the day, it's freedom. And aren't we all searching for that freedom?
Yeah.
So what do you have to say to the people who feel like they are not living the freest expression of themselves? Like they feel like they are in some kind of box and they're inhibited in expressing themselves. What do you say to that one person?
Ooh, wow. Yeah, so many good points you brought up, Shana. I've been there. I am that person who really struggled for a long time, because especially when I have my career now, I work with stage 4 cancer patients. I work with people who are sick with autoimmune. I help people heal with stem cells as well. And so I had for a long time this idea that if I'm this person that's helping people that are very sick or helping them heal, that I had to have this like persona of I'm put together and I'm this, I'm that, right? Professional. Yes. I couldn't have a life that wasn't that, but I was shutting down part of who I am, part of my soul. And here's the thing about play is it's part of all of us and we lose it. And that is like the juice of life is play. So I don't have any miraculous advice, but the one thing I will say is to figure out what really lights you up. Like it can be the smallest thing. And for me, it's music. So when I'm losing touch with myself, I turn on music really loud and I dance. I love singing, even though my voice is not the best, but that's okay. I love music. I love moving my body, whether it's just a little dancing, even by myself, I think one thing I put on my list for this year, because I wanted to bring back the child in me, that childlike stuff. And what I loved when I was young, Shana, was riding horses. And I've gotten away from that. And that's like one thing that's on my list for this year. So it's, bringing back either the childlike things or just bringing back the things that make you so happy. And one thing that you brought up that I think is so important is it's not good, bad, right, or wrong. The judge in us sometimes is worse than any other judge. Like we judge ourselves. We're so hard on ourselves for all the reasons, but it just doesn't matter. And to be, in my opinion, like truly fulfilled, we get to be all the dynamic parts of us. So there are times when, yes, we do need to be professional and responsible. We need to take care of business, family, kids, whatever it may be. But we have to have the other parts too, because without it, it's like a wobbly thing. It can't work.
Imbalance.
Right? It's imbalanced. Yeah, it doesn't work. I am the queen of fun. I will say that. I have lived, like if I were to leave this earth tomorrow, I can tell you I lived and I have traveled. I've done it all. And I will say that the thing that it brings me is it brings me presence. It helps me stop worrying about the future, because I worry a lot about the future sometimes. Like, what am I doing in my life? Where am I going? Am I showing up who I want to show up? And it helps me also stop worrying about the past, things I can't change. Because when I'm having like real authentic fun, and that doesn't, a lot of times people think fun is like partying or whatever, like out like that. No, that could be fun, but fun is like when us girls get together and we're just giggling and laughing for no reason. And it's like the smallest moments, right? Fun can be whatever the heck you want it to be. Like, there's no box that says it needs to look this way. And it's also finding people that bring that out in you. Like, that's why this world, we're so different. Like, you are so different than me, yet we have a lot of things in common, but it's beautiful because I bring out things in you and you bring out things in me. And that's why our relationship is so beautiful and dynamic. And I'll say that's why the women that we have in our life are so important, is because there's things that you give me that I actually really can't give myself. There's a depth, there's a love, there's a connection, and there's a way that you see me and show up for me that feeds my soul and my purpose and my, like, helping me not just be so serious or always be about work, right? And I have this thing that I always say is spiritual and bougie. I used to not be able to embrace those sides because I thought if I'm spiritual and connected and helping, patients heal, that I also can't be bougie and want to go on a yacht and want to have nice things, right? I thought it had to be one or the other. It's so wrong. It's all the things. I can have all of those things. One day I can be out and be doing something bougie or fun or be out on a yacht. And the next day I can be helping cancer patients who are really sick, and I can drop in with them and help them heal and move them forward. Like, one does not make the other one less. So to embrace all of it.
You just brought back a memory when I was graduating college in Las Vegas. Sarah and our other best friend, Olga, were living in San Diego. And I wanted to move there because I kept flying out to visit both of you so often.
Yeah.
And we were in a text message together, the three of us. And I was like, what am I going to do after college? Going back and forth with different ideas. And I'll never forget that Sarah and Olga were like blowing up my cell phone that day when I was texting them about my ideas. And I'll never forget that you just said to me, Shana, you can do anything. It was in all caps locks. And you were like, you don't even need a corporate job. You can do your own thing, be your own boss, have your own business. Literally, like, the world is your oyster. And I remember just being like, wow, like, that energy and that belief that you had in me, it just meant the world to me. Like, you just don't know what one thing you say. You don't know how that one thing can change someone's life. And like, that's the kind of friend you've been for me since the start. Is like, you've never hesitated to tell me, look, I think you're fucking great. And like, I will make sure that you create such a beautiful life for yourself. And as a friend, like, I hope that's how all friends are to each other. But I'm just so grateful that I get to say that about you, because like, I feel like I'm really living that. Like, I am living that anything is possible for me, and I am pursuing what matters to me, and I'm taking risks, and I'm doing scary things. And one of the things you taught me is, Shana, you gotta be a shark. Meaning, like, you can't be, like, you really gotta basically go after what you want unapologetically, and it takes a lot of courage to be a shark. And so I always think about that in my life. Like, when I'm scared to do something new, I'll ask myself, Shana, are you being a shark right now? Like, are you just getting after it, going after your dreams? And so I just really want to remind people, this is the value of having people and friends in your life who actually see you for who you are, and they see what you're capable of, and they hold you to it. Like, they don't back down. They don't sell out on you. They actually bring you opportunities to help you get closer to where you want to go. So Sarah, I just want to acknowledge the friend that you've been for me the last 6 or so years.
Yeah. Thank you. I'm so proud of you, Shana, and everything you're creating and the difference you're making. I mean, this is insane. So Shark School, baby.
This is Shark School one-on-one for everyone listening. So
Yeah.
if you're in your 20s, even if you're in your 30s, I mean, really, if you're any age, you can take away something from what Sarah has shared today. And man, did you drop so many golden nuggets of wisdom today. You just, you have a future in podcasting yourself. I gotta say, I'm blown away over here. But thank you for reminding every one of us that we are so worthy, that it's so important to find and surround ourselves with people who love us and cherish us and want the best for us. And thank you for being a reminder that whatever it is we want in life, it's up to us to change the way we think about ourselves and the world, and to just live out our freest expression of our being. That's what you've taught me today.
Beautiful. Thank you, Shana. I love you so much. Oh my gosh.